This is 13 ABC Action News at 4 with Tina Williams and Tony Giftis.
Domestic violence impacts thousands of people every day. Women, children, and men can all be victims.
Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women in the United States. In the past month here in Toledo, 3 women have died at the hands of a partner or former partner. Domestic violence is our big story today.
And according to the experts, the number of domestic violent cases in our area is on the rise.
13 ABC's Lisa Guyton spoke to the head of the Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center. She joins us in studio with what she learned. Lisa?
Tina and Tony, Dr. Christy Jenkins says there are a number of factors behind the increase of domestic violence cases, and the pandemic is certainly one of them. She says it's also important to point out that the abuse is not always physical. It can also be verbal, emotional, psychological, and even financial. Dr. Jenkins says it takes many victims and survivors up to 8 times to actually leave for good. Of course, that never happens in some cases. She says many of the victims of domestic violence do not leave because they're afraid of what will happen to their families, their children, their pets, or they have no support system and nowhere to go. She says the local shelters and agencies that work with domestic violence cases collaborate in our community. And because of that, the Toledo area has a good support system and safety net for victims and survivors. Dr. Jenkins says if you are trying to leave an abuser, case managers at their center can help you get everything in order to make a smooth transition. And when it comes to helping end the cycle of violence, the Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center is the only agency that treats the entire family, and that includes programs for the abusers.
So we check the recidivism rates, and of those who have completed, less than 10% ever reoffend. And so that is huge because we can get survivors out of domestic violence relationships. We can help their children, but an abuser is just going to go find more victims. And so if we can't head that off at the root of it, they're just going to continue the abuse.
Dr. Jenkins says if you see something, say something. You could truly be saving a life, and you can remain anonymous. Reporting live, Lisa Guyton, 13 ABC Action News.
And Lisa, while you're here, what are the numbers when it comes to domestic violence?
Dr. Jenkins says 1 in 4 people will be a victim of abuse in their lifetime. And that's just the cases that are reported, so she thinks that number is actually a lot higher because of the people who never say anything. Now, Dr. Jenkins also says 1 in 4 students will be in some kind of an abusive relationship before they graduate from high school. And like the other cases, that can be physical or emotional abuse.
Wow.
Back to you.
All right, thanks very much. Lisa Guyton reporting live.
Now, if you need help right now, there are multiple services in Lucas County, many of which are available 24/7. On your screen, we have some numbers for the Crisis Response Line, Family Services of Northwest Ohio, the Lucas County Victim Witness Assistance, and the YWCA, which houses women in need.
The state of Ohio defines domestic violence as when a family or household member or someone you're in a dating relationship with commits one of the following: threatens or does physical harm to you, menacing by stalking, abuses a child, commits a sexually oriented offense. But there are ways to legally protect yourself or a family member, and we'll explain that in just a moment.
Well, the number of domestic violence cases is growing. We've heard that already today. And in fact, the city of Toledo now adding a second prosecutor who will focus solely on domestic violence. In the city budget that passed this week, there's cash set aside to fund that new position.
We're told the prosecutor will work out of the city law department and municipal court. And at this point, the position is a work in progress. We're expected to learn more about the expansion next week. For many people, it's not as easy as just walking away. So how do you get a restraining order? According to Toledo Police, you need to go to the Lucas County Court of Common Pleas or Domestic Relations Court.
Then you file a petition detailing the abuse and why you need one. A judge then reviews that. You'll then be asked to appear before a judge for a hearing. You present your case, and your judge will determine if you are in immediate danger. If so, you're granted a temporary restraining order until that full hearing. And the full hearing typically happens within 1 to 2 weeks of you filing. If granted, Ohio's restraining orders can be effective for up to 5 years, and then they need to be renewed. Children also falling victim to abuse. In fact, many children who witness domestic violence suffer psychological issues and can actually struggle with relationship problems later in life. Lucas County Children's Service data from 2021 shows that a third of all of the family cases opened in the last 5 years listed domestic violence as a factor for that agency getting involved. Nearly 2,000 Lucas County children were confirmed to have been victims of child abuse or neglect right here in Lucas County in 2020.